influx of tourism. And so it can't be treated the same either. Extra monies have to be spent there as well. And then we, as a municipality, are subsidizing things like the youth center in Grand Bend by giving the building for use by the service clubs there too. And those are all good things. Those are all important. And it's not going to be equitable. I mean, it's not going to be exactly the same. It will be equitable because there's needs there. And obviously, we are moving towards reconsideration of what we're doing right now at the local YMCA area. But I do think one of the things we need to do is perhaps not have such lengthy terms to contracts. Like, we have to be able to, yes, we need stability, but many of these things, whoever's, dredging the harbor, or that's easily transferred to another person. There's things like that if we keep them shorter terms and we're renegotiating fairly regularly, if there is financial needs in the area, people are going to be more competitive, and there's going to be it's going to be to our advantage to have these contracts to offer. And then we have this OMI contract for quite some time, and it's obviously exponentially increasing because it's what percentage is of the previous contract is going to increase by. So it's compounding. It's compounding its value every year, and then we're wasting money at that. So the more often we negotiate those things, the better it is. As it turns out, most of the core employees will stay on regardless of who's managing it, as it's worked out with Laws, American Waters, whoever else is managing these things. Those people will stay. So I think we should shorten them down, maybe even to 2 years, if we don't know what's going to be coming down the pipe for us.
Can I just comment? Because we did look at that. Early on, they were fairly tight contracts, 2 to 3 years, I think. When we got into the service for water and sewer operations, we tried to see what was going on in the industry across Canada and across the U.S. in terms of those types of contracts. Are very comprehensive. The trend was, and City of London went through it as well, looking at longer term to allow that operator to generate the kind of revenue. He needed that sense of permanence to have that competitive edge, the security of knowing that he had a longer term contract. So I think City of London went to I believe it was a 10-year contract. Stand to be corrected, and so with the OMI, it started off, I think it was a 3-year renewal. And then we either look at a 5 or a longer term to be receptive to that. But I think the approach would be to not, just like you're suggesting, not have this is the approach, they're all 10-year contracts, they're all 2-year, but see what fits best. Mm-hmm. The other challenge with them is they do require a lot of work to get right. So we do need council to have this kind of discussion on each kind of concept or idea, and go into some pretty good healthy discussion about what the implications are. We built the budget around, you recall, the sort of, I use the term core services. When you talk about consistency of services to everyone in the municipality, there were some basic fundamental core services that everybody's entitled to. Then there are those, I don't want to call them discretionary, but the marinas, there's other things that they're unique to specific area, and they need to be looked at in a kind of different way. And so I think it's having that kind of strategic approach that council needs to have about, okay, all of these things, what's up for grabs, what can we utilize, what are those core services that if you want to call it the full-time staff are responsible for, and then look for those other opportunities where you can tap into the private sector. I think the other comment that somebody made earlier about sometimes we just see things that this is how we always do it, and as much as we try to discipline ourselves to say let's think outside the box, I think the idea, what appealed to me too about the Ottawa example was sometimes there's operators out there that are seeing it, we could do that a lot better, and we need to make it known to them. It doesn't mean we have to give up the farm. Say, come on and tell us about it. Let's have a discussion about it. So that really appealed to me, the Ottawa example. For example, you mentioned about the rock claying example. We had a similar kind of inquiry from the Forest Golf and Country Hotel, but they had put a little fitness center and a little, their swimming pool operations and wanted to provide a swimming programs to the broader community, and we were just too early in our formation to get into, and we were trying to stay away from programming, get involved in that. But, you know, I think there are opportunities that other private sector people might be able to assist us with.
Councillor Scott?
I think this is a great report in the respect that it highlights all the large item things. But I'm looking at a public-private partnership as also being the contracts that go out to IT, to cleaning offices, to doing other functions that are smaller, less expensive ones, but that we never really see. You know, committees of council that are working towards things and utility contracts and things like that. So I think it covers some of the larger things, but I don't see really where it covers the smaller things as to what goes on. And I think that we need to look at all public-private partnerships as a totality. And I think that I don't see that part in here.
Well, I can respond to that because I tried to identify, and I didn't know, again, in putting this report together, to what level of detail or specificity did you want to get into? Because there's no issue. Again, we can walk through the IT support services process and cleaning services and how we go about it and why they're done the way they are. But
Councillor Bonstone and Councillor Cook.
Yeah, I don't know if that's, I don't know if we need to get into the minutiae of how we're doing it. I think it's what we're doing. And the deputy has used the analogy that this is a family, siblings, 5 kids or whatever. And yeah, parents do treat their children differently, but they all meet the basic needs, right? And so that's my point, is that each area in this federation is unique. It has very different flavors, very different makeups to it. My point is when we get spending public dollars with private enterprise, I think we need to account to our ratepayer why we've made the decision we've made. And if another area who could benefit from a similar service that we're providing to one of the 5 isn't getting it, I think we have to be able to defend that. And Councillor Russell's always saying defend the indefensible. And I think that's, if we're not careful when we get into these, if we don't have an underlying philosophy that guides why we're doing what we're doing, I think you can get into defending the indefensible. So I don't know whether we talk about the contacts we have. I think we need to talk about the philosophy of why we get into service contracts with specific providers, and then the accountability of that. And I think we go from there, because it's not to go back to the Y one, because it's not the one. I don't. Let's talk about service X. When we pay service X a management fee, we are invariably, think I saying, just substituting the service provider for a staff member. And so it may be cheaper, it may be more economical, but I guess I'm thinking of public-private partnerships in more of an equitable term. What's in it for them, what's in it for us? And to me, if we take all the risk, I think the private sector provider then gets perked. So I think there has to be equitable risk involved when we get into it, and I think that the money has to whatever we pay out for public dollars has to be defensible, to say this is why we did it, this is the need we saw, and here's why we.
So isn't that the process you go through at budget time when you decide this is the way you're going to do that service? No?
No.
Ah, okay. Doug?
Well, you're micromanaging where you don't need to micromanage. That's what it comes down to. We're doing the jobs of the people that we hired to do the job. And why do we need to do that? We set up a budget, we passed it last time, we're gonna go 2% over the last year's cost. So those are the numbers we're gonna deal with this year. These guys work within their own borders, their own business units, to figure out whether they do it cheaper themselves or they find somebody else cheaper to do it for them to achieve that goal. That's what it comes down to. So whether it's a public-private partnership or their own guys are doing it, we've allowed them to go up 2% over last year's budget. How that cost comes to me, I don't really care, because it's still dollars and cents. Same dollars and cents spent whether it's on a private-public partnership or our own guys doing it. That's what their job is to go figure out whether it's cheaper for our guys to do it or get somebody else to do it. That's the bottom line. So how that